Your resources have access points, like your bank account and your information, and also your energy and time, which are accessed through your attention and proximity. But everything that you have that has value has some access point. And I'm finding myself more and more having to defend these doors, so to speak. And it's a function, I think, of two things. One, as always, technology, because that's what's novel. So that's the driver of change. But also something else that's kind of cyclical, and that is the long-term debt cycle. I think it influences human behavior. So there have been hundreds, perhaps, of fiat currency regimes, and they go through this thing called, they have a life cycle. So it's a debt cycle, because fiat money is lent into existence, and like the principal is lent into existence, but not the interest. So it can't all be paid back. It's like a pyramid scheme of sorts that has to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually, though, that relationship to between the debt and the GDP, the amount of money out there relative to the goods and services that it chases, gets out of whack, and you have this hyperinflation where people lose faith in the currency. Well, in the run-up to that kind of end game, there's all kinds of people just become more desperate, and it leads to desperate behavior. So, in terms of your money, there are always people trying to steal it. And it's the same with your data. And also, your attention is constantly being grabbed at by pop-up ads and everything wanting you to download their app. I mean, you don't have the bandwidth to engage with everything that wants to engage with you. Like, you could just be picked apart, like, by piranha, if you just became like yes man, like yes, oh yes, 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 I'll do this, yes, yes. You would just vanish. The algorithm is constantly trying to get your eyes on content. There's just so much pressure to win on everything that's trying to sell you something. And technology is being leveraged to, really optimize that as much as possible. It's like that's all life has become, is a series of battles to thwart unwanted encounters, either on screens or face-to-face. You open the camera app for your house and you get a pop-up ad. You watch anything on YouTube, ad. And of course, if you're not paying for premium, you'll get the ads, plus constant solicitation for premium itself. Then, if you go into any public space, you have to have your head on a swivel for multiple kinds of unwanted encounters, such as those with violent criminals, panhandlers, multi-level marketing salespeople, poll and survey takers, malicious content creators, religious proselytizers, road-raging drivers, and the police. Apparently they've been arresting sober drivers in Tennessee for DUI. Some trooper is so obsessed with being the standout that every traffic stop is a gotcha game. And even at home, you get various kinds of door knockers. I had a store-bought, no soliciting sign, and it pretty much gets ignored because it looks like something a sane person would have on their house. But when I instead decided to handwrite a note with a Sharpie in my poor, fine motor skilled handwriting, it was taken more seriously. The pressure on everything to win and gain market share is evidenced in the absolute blitzkrieg of pitches being directed at you 24/7 if you're positioned to be hit by them. If you step out of your door without the intention of spending any money, there's only so much time you can be in public without running into some kind of trouble, either from an unwanted encounter, because as a person who's not going to spend any money, you're going to be in a place where everyone can get to you, or if you're not, you'll be getting trespassed because you've spent too much time in a commercial space without the intention of spending money. I was recently reading about the biblical account of King David and how, by virtue of having a census that God didn't want, he was presented with 3 possible punishments, of which he chose a 3-day plague. And that's not really the point of this, but it made me think of the movie Ghostbusters and how when they summon this old elder god, Zool, in the form of Bill Murray's girlfriend, she tells them that they will choose their own punishment, their own destruction. And it could be so much as a thought, hence the appearance of the giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. In a way, this movie example is a tiny example of how it actually is. It's an accelerated example of how the nature of our thought life determines the thing for which we suffer. It's what we think that directs our actions, both of those that lead to good things and bad. But all of our emotional suffering stems from thoughts relative to circumstance, in the belief of being one to relate to them. In Ghostbusters, the thing that could theoretically have saved them was to have no thoughts at all. That's what they said, to have no thoughts. And I think it was Dan Aykroyd's character who couldn't resist thinking of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. In the case of real spiritual practice, it's not the absence of thinking, but rather the absence of identification with a thinker that allows for stillness. Thoughts arise from conditioning. What you know is derivative. For example, I recently saw a video wherein this guy was saying that children who were blind from birth, while they can discern a cube from a sphere by touch, they haven't built the neural pathways to correlate the felt shape to the seen one when they gain their sight. So they, for some reason, cannot discern a cube feeling thing from a round feeling thing by sight alone. You know nothing without experience and retained memory for reference, and you believe everything the first time you see it, whether you realize that or not. I'm 100% convinced that I could create an M. Night Shyamalan type village and raise children to 100% worship Super Chino as gods. Our beliefs are based on conditioning, and the power of belief is predicated on belief in being the I that relates to them. So you don't have to stop the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from appearing altogether, but rather be able to let him pass by as a stranger. One like this doesn't perceive themselves to be a thing that relates to other things, but rather what's perceiving all of them. And they find all the things that other people consider themselves to be existing within that awareness as well. The sense of being a separate individual is the product of both the tendency for there to be belief in whatever is projected into awareness, barring the augmentation by memory to give it context, and that what the form projects into awareness is apparently discrete within the realm of thoughts and dreams, meaning people generally don't claim to have mind melds with others. And so there is an automatic belief that the mental space is a private domain. The world that is projected into awareness through the senses and form is one that is relational, where things interact with things. And so duality is required for the survival of the body, and thus the projection of the world into awareness. The I thought must be identified with to become the agent of the body to keep it going. This is the impetus of every living thing, and how it is accomplished is just a matter of how complex the organism is. But with a human being, once the practical conditioning required to keep the body alive has been established, the unconscious body identification that motivated the cultivation of a self with survival skills is no longer necessary to continue on using those skills and surviving. So when there is a belief that the dream is real and that one is a character appearing in that dream, there is a strong impetus to build up that character and all the trappings that will keep it secure, and also to secure for itself the energy that follows the attention of other people. But when there is no longer an identification with the form that projects the world into what's aware of it, the projection itself ceases to contain various threads of suffering, such as covetousness, envy, greed, wrath, and various and sundry other low vibrational feelings. Those things all had their source in how the world related to the form and conceptual self. If there's no belief in being those things, circumstances and ideas that either insult or aggrandize them have no emotional consequence. But in the wake of those emotional threads' disappearance from the projection of mind and energy body, there is not an emotional deadness, but rather an abundance of life. The energy body, being unencumbered from the dissonance created by the false self's fear and resistance to the truth, to the moment, rises to the vibrational level of love. Spiritual practice works towards this end of the belief that makes an idol of the dependently originated source of what projects the world into awareness. Anything else is some kind of black magic, something that serves the idol. That's not to say that the rewards of work are not a good thing, but rather that the use of spiritual means to worldly ends does not lead to the end of bondage.